that we took a decision this morning to leave the House and to abandon what was in essence a sham debate in relation to the Water Services Bill. We oppose the government proposition. They have shown a fundamental lack of respect for parliamentary democracy. We've been very cooperative all year. There have been many other bills like the property tax and social welfare that they've guillotined. Given all the commitments made during the Shannon referendum, we simply could not comprehend that they were going to do what they did this morning with the Water Services Bill, and that was to force all stages through in about 3.5 hours, giving no time whatsoever for meaningful debate, and certainly not allowing for any amendments to be taken from the opposition. So it was a sham debate, and I think collectively we all felt that there would be some response from the government to our views. There were none, and they've proceeded ahead, and so we've withdrawn as a result in protest at what is unacceptable behaviour by the government.
We have withdrawn collectively as the opposition parties and independent voices. What's happening inside in the Dáil chamber at this moment in time represents an undermining of our roles and responsibilities as democratically elected representatives of the people. The Water Services Bill, with 39 sections, has some 70 odd amendments to be addressed. The Shannon had 18 hours to address this legislation, and yet we were expected to ram through all of this before this evening, and with some only 2 hours, I think, in relation to committee and report stage. It is just simply unacceptable what is happening. 12 months ago it was the local property tax that was being introduced, and this year it's the Water Services Bill with all of the consequences that that represents. So we're here standing together in a clear statement of opposition to what the government are undertaking inside in the Dáil chamber at this point in time.
There was a clear decision to ram this through at the last minute, and essentially it's been done before the recess, and obviously there will be unpopular things in this. The two things that people will say to you that puts them under most pressure or the most concerned about is the property tax and now new water charges, as potentially the straw that breaks the camel's back. We clearly need adequate and decent water, but we needed to debate this bill, and if they believed so fundamentally in this piece of legislation, they should have given us the time to adequately scrutinise it. Our job is to hold the government to account. They're not allowing us to do our job.
We're here today representing the entire opposition to protest at the government's complete and utter disregard for proper democratic procedures. They're riding roughshod over parliamentary procedures. We have a democratic mandate here. We have a right to be heard. We have a right to engage in proper debate on legislation. This is far-reaching legislation. It has profound implications for the economy of the country and also for individuals in terms of charges coming down the tracks. We're also extremely concerned that what the government is actually at is preparing the water services for privatisation down the road. This is part of a piece. We've seen this increasingly over the past year as a result of the very large majority that the government have. They're riding roughshod over proper democratic procedures, and they're ramming through several bills now without adequate parliamentary scrutiny and without any kind of proper democratic input to that. It's not acceptable in a modern democracy.
Any holder, anyone who wants to answer it, the Ceann Comhairle is going to refer the behaviour of today to the Committee of Procedure Privileges. He's not happy with the way people acted, and he says it was unparliamentary. What's your response to that?
Well, I'm not sure what specifically the Ceann Comhairle is referring to. I behaved, and all of us here, in relation to this specific issue on the order of business, behaved in a very strong parliamentary manner, upholding parliamentary democracy in a very civilised way, and you can go back over the record and you'll see that. We made a very good, well-argued debate to Minister Quinn that it was absolutely unacceptable what he was doing. And you could see the Minister had no stomach for this. He knew what he was doing was wrong. And he had a pathetic response. In the end, he basically said, look, if any defects or defaults in the bill, I'll come back and I'll correct it. It was quite pathetic. And we pointed out that in the original heads of bill, there was very significant prohibitions on, for example, the sale of Irish water by the sale of Irish water into the future. And for some reason, those prohibitions were deleted from this bill that's been rammed through today. So there are very, very serious and substantive issues around the privatisation of water and opportunities for deputies to table amendments to actually reinsert those prohibitions back in no one got that opportunity.
So
So I don't think there was any unparliamentary behaviour by those who
Yeah,
walked.
and I think we would welcome an examination of the procedures involved here, because we need proper procedures dealing with important legislation, and the government is disregarding those standard procedures. There needs to be adequate debate.
There is unparliamentary behaviour taking place as we speak. It's the bulldozing of legislation that we have not been given the opportunity to properly scrutiny and engage with. There certainly needs to be an address of this, and if the Count Gorya wishes to take up this matter, he most certainly would have our support.
So the last day of term, the Dáil has broken up in complete disarray.
It has broken up. There is other business later on.
But all the opposition have walked out of the Dáil, so the Dáil is in disarray. So there's nobody to hold them to account in there.
But you see, that's why we've walked out, because the government clearly indicated in the order today they didn't want to be held to account, because if you read it, it says this bill will be decided by one question to be tabled by the minister. So, in essence, the debate counts for nothing.
They have denied us the opportunity.
Amendments that the opposition have tabled count for nothing. We're going to put one question at the end of 3 hours and it's through, and we're saying we've had enough of this. You said you were going to change how the Dáil works. You don't really mean it. You're not even pretending now to adhere to the kind of principles you articulated during the referendum debate and so on, and to keep on saying in your programme for government. That's why we're walking out.
And the business of the day is not over. There is other legislation that we will be engaging with in relation to the Pyrite Bill and also the Adoption Amendment Bill. Both of these will be addressed and substantively engaged in by members here.
It's not as if they didn't know that this was a problem. This was raised with them last week in relation at the Whips meeting, where it was vigorously opposed that there was going to be this guillotine. It was raised in the Dáil last week. It was raised again yesterday. They knew that there was going to be a problem. This is not of our making. This is the making of this problem is wholly and completely on government side.
But is it not a problem that all of you are now out here? There's no one in there, so there's even less debate on the water services bill.
But come on, you're not seriously suggesting there was any meaningful debate going to take place this morning. The government has said, sorry, we're going to settle this, we're having no debate on this, we're going to ram this through. It's jackboot tactics, and that's what's going on here. And they have a large majority that they're using in a wrong way, and they're using it to undermine democracy and parliamentary democracy. That's what's wrong.
What's happening in there needs to be seen for what it is.
Yeah. And don't forget, we were promised a democratic revolution. And
just over 2 years ago.
There has been no reform.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful. Get a new stand.